talent is a pursued interest. In other words, anything that you're willing to practice, you can do.
Iconic artist Bob Ross, renowned for his mesmerizing ability to complete a painting in under an hour, captivated audiences with his wet-on-wet technique through his popular show, The Joy of Painting. Aired weekly on PBS, Bob's charming personality, distinctive hairdo, and light-hearted humor quickly made him a beloved figure, teaching millions of viewers his unique painting method. Despite his passing due to lymphoma, his fame only continued to grow, gaining a new generation of fans through streaming platforms like Twitch and YouTube. However, there was a hidden side to Bob Ross that we didn't know about. Let's unravel the enigmatic life of the artist who inspired generations and the untold trials that shaped the man behind the canvas. Early years. Robert Norman Ross, affectionately known as Bob Ross, was born on October 29, 1942, in Daytona Beach, Florida. Born to Jack and Ollie Ross, Bob grew up in a modest home in Orlando, Florida. His mother worked as a waitress, while his father was a carpenter, and together they provided a simple yet supportive upbringing for their son. From an early age, Bob demonstrated a caring and nurturing personality, particularly when it came to animals. He showed a remarkable affinity for helping injured creatures, including squirrels, armadillos, snakes, and even dangerous alligators. His love for animals would later become an endearing characteristic that shone through in many episodes of his iconic television show. As a young boy, Bob was eager to contribute to his family, which led him to leave high school in the 9th grade to join his father's carpentry business. During this time, he experienced a challenging setback when he lost part of his left index finger in a sawing accident. Despite this unfortunate event, it would not hinder his passion for painting or his ability to use a palette in the years to come. Early career. Bob Ross's life took a significant turn when he enlisted in the United States Air Force at the age of 18 in 1961. At 6 feet 2 inches, Bob's height set him apart, easily casting a shadow over his fellow troops. However, his impressive stature also posed challenges. His height, combined with unusually flat feet, disqualified him from flying planes or working in their confined spaces as a technician or engineer. Instead, he was assigned to a desk job as a medical records technician. Despite starting in an office role, Bob's height eventually worked to his advantage as he rose through the ranks. He achieved the position of First Sergeant, a role that required him to enforce discipline. Bob often described his duties as making soldiers scrub latrines, ensuring they made their beds, and reprimanding them for tardiness. His imposing presence and strict demeanor earned him the nickname "Bust 'em Up Bobby," a testament to his tough approach with recruits. Even with his proficiency and authority in his role, Bob secretly disliked being a harsh disciplinarian. Yelling at recruits and subordinates clashed with his true nature. This inner conflict led Bob to make a personal vow. Once he was discharged, he would shed his stern military persona and embrace a gentler, kinder way of life. True to his promise, Bob transformed into the mild-mannered, gentle soul that his friends and family came to know and love. At Alaska's Eielson Air Force Base, Bob served as the first sergeant in charge of the clinic. This assignment introduced him to the majestic snow-covered landscapes and towering mountains of Alaska, igniting a newfound appreciation for nature's beauty. It was this awe-inspiring environment that fueled Bob's burgeoning interest in painting, specifically landscape art. His journey into the world of painting began while he was still stationed in Alaska during the early 1960s, when a United Service Organizations group offered painting lessons. Bob found painting fascinating and continued to dabble in it as a hobby. However, it wasn't until 1975 that his passion for painting truly took root. This turning point came when he watched an episode of The Magic of Oil Painting, hosted by German painter William Alexander. Bob was captivated by Alexander's technique, which made creating beautiful paintings seem effortless. This moment sparked a deep interest and marked the beginning of Bob's serious pursuit of art. From 1975 to 1982, Bob had been in the military for 17 years. Reflecting on his initial reaction to Alexander's show, Bob recalled feeling a mix of amazement and frustration. "The first time I saw Alexander on TV, it almost made me angry," he admitted in an interview. He was vexed by how Alexander could achieve in mere minutes what took Bob days to accomplish. This realization, however, did not deter him. Instead, it motivated him to master the technique himself. During this period, Bob's dedication to painting grew. He began practicing Alexander's methods, refining his skills, and developing his unique style. His determination and relentless practice paid off, transforming him into a skilled painter. Painting became a sanctuary for Bob, a way to express his creativity and find peace amidst the rigors of military life. Rise to fame. Bob had now been introduced to the basic elements that would shape the rest of his artistic career. Initially, his paintings took days to complete. But the wet-on-wet technique he learned from watching Alexander transformed his process. This method involved layering oil paints directly on top of wet paint, allowing for quicker completion and smoother blending of colors. It was perfect for television, enabling the swift creation of beautiful landscapes right before viewers' eyes. Despite still being a soldier, Bob didn't let his duties stop him from refining his painting skills. He practiced diligently and began selling his Alaskan landscapes to visitors, finding that the income from his art was often more substantial than his military pay. To supplement his earnings, he painted at local taverns, using gold panning tins as canvases. This unconventional choice helped him develop speed and precision in his work. In addition to selling paintings, Bob often gave demonstrations where onlookers would marvel at his artistic process and be captivated by his work. After 20 years in the service, he retired in 1982 and set out to find his mentor, William Alexander, whom he had watched obsessively on TV. When he found Alexander, he became his best student due to his intense passion for the art form. However, this dedication did not translate into a stable income. Even though he sold a few painting lessons, it wasn't nearly enough to make a living. An easy way to spot Bob's financial struggles was his distinctive afro, which was born out of a need to minimize the costs of haircuts. Instead of getting regular perms, he decided to let his hair grow out until he could afford better. Ironically, this hairstyle became his trademark. Although he disliked it and felt trapped by it, the afro became an essential part of his artistic persona. Bob's charming hippie vibe, enhanced by his hair and general style, was infectious. Despite the massive audience size of his show, he maintained his signature look of denim shirts and trousers, speaking in a soothing, almost intimate voice that made viewers feel like they were in a one-on-one painting session with him. Fans fell more in love with Bob with each episode, drawn to his charisma and the calming presence he exuded. He became known as the gentle artist who talked about happy little trees and clouds, and his soothing manner had a calming effect on his audience. Many viewers learned more than just art from Bob. They found peace and inspiration in his approach to painting and life. After becoming one of Alexander's traveling instructors, Bob sought to establish his own identity in the art world. His big break came when he launched his own television show, The Joy of Painting, in 1983. The Joy of Painting. The Joy of Painting was produced and aired by non-commercial public television stations. Its first season premiered in early 1983, produced by WNVC in Falls Church, Virginia. From the second season onward, beginning later that year, production moved to WIPB in Muncie, Indiana, where it continued until the series ended in 1994. Later episodes were also produced by Blue Ridge Public Television in Roanoke, Virginia. Today, the series is distributed by American Public Television. In 1992, reruns began airing on PBS stations across the United States under the title The Best of the Joy of Painting, showcasing a curated selection of Bob Ross's favorite works. By the early 1990s, nearly 300 episodes had aired in the US on PBS and in Canada on CBC television. If you weren't able to watch it back then, let's take a look at how each episode unfolded. Each show began with a blank canvas, usually white, but sometimes pre-coated with black gesso. Ross would then apply a thin layer of wet paint to prepare the surface, typically using magic white, a technique he learned from mentor Bill Alexander. In later seasons, this was simply referred to by a generic name. For time-consuming pieces, Bob sometimes prepared the first few steps in advance, briefly explaining his canvas setup before continuing. For quicker paintings, he often filled extra time with wholesome diversions, introducing animals like his pet squirrel Peapod, showing nature clips, or sharing moments from public events. What followed was truly magical. Within just minutes, Ross transformed the once empty canvas into vivid landscapes, seascapes, or snowy scenes using the wet-on-wet technique. This approach, which involves applying wet paint onto wet surfaces, allowed for seamless blending and quick progress. With his signature tools, 2-inch brushes, fan brushes, and palette knives, Bob effortlessly created detailed trees, mountains, clouds, and lakes. He worked with a rich palette of colors, including titanium white, phthalo green, phthalo blue, Prussian blue, midnight black, dark sienna, Van Dyke brown, burnt umber, alizarin crimson, sap green, cadmium yellow, yellow ochre, Indian yellow, and bright red. Bob often started with broad, crisscross strokes that seemed random at first, gradually layering colors and textures until those abstract smudges blossomed into breathtaking scenery. As he painted, he spoke gently to the audience, teaching techniques and offering words of encouragement. He gave personality to his landscapes, describing happy little clouds and happy little trees, and adding extra elements like a second tree because everyone needs a friend. His gentle humor and heartfelt commentary made the painting process inviting and deeply personal. Episodes often featured snippets of his life, especially his affection for animals. Home videos of Bob with baby deer, raccoons, and other creatures gave viewers a glimpse into his off-screen world. The show was filmed in real time using 2 cameras, one for a medium shot of Bob and his easel, and another for close-ups of his brushwork and palette. Each episode typically ended with Bob offering a kind farewell, often saying, "So from all of us here, I'd like to wish you happy painting and God bless, my friend." The instrumental theme song, Interlude from Network Music, played over the credits alongside a shot of the completed painting. Interestingly, Bob painted 3 versions of every piece featured on the show. The first, completed ahead of filming, served as a reference just off-camera. The second was the one painted live on air, and the third, created afterward with more detail, was included in his instructional books. These artworks were later donated to PBS stations, the Smithsonian, or retained by Bob Ross Inc. Guest artists occasionally appeared to paint in Bob's place, bringing diversity to the show's content. These included his son Steve Ross, Dana Jester, Diane Andre, John Tham, Audrey Golden, Joyce Ortner, Ben Stahl, Dorothy Dent, and his business partner Annette Kowalski, known for her floral art. Each guest added a new dimension to the program, sharing unique techniques and styles. Bob's calm, encouraging demeanor made every episode feel like a personal art lesson. Phrases like, "You can do it," and "There are no mistakes, only happy accidents," became part of his enduring legacy. His warm presence made even beginners feel capable, and the show became as much about emotional connection as it was about painting. But the joy of painting was more than a tutorial. It was a philosophy. Bob's message was about finding beauty in imperfection and joy in creation. He shared stories, mused on nature, and spoke of serenity and happiness, turning his program into a peaceful retreat from the everyday world. Bob Ross's influence stretched far beyond television. His accessible teaching style and gentle wisdom transformed him into a cultural icon. Through painting, he encouraged viewers to embrace creativity, patience, and positivity. His workshops, books, and videos extended his reach, inspiring countless people to pick up a brush and discover their own artistic voice. Despite rising fame, Bob remained grounded. He continued to paint, teach, and spread joy through art, always staying true to the simple, kind-hearted spirit that first captured the world's attention. Bob's personal life and relationship with the Kowalskis. Bob and Annette Kowalski first met when she enrolled in a painting class he was teaching as a way to cope with her son's death. Annette found solace not only in the act of painting, but also in Bob's unique style and engaging lessons. This class provided the perfect distraction and healing mechanism she needed during that difficult time. At the time, Annette was married to Walt Kowalski, a former CIA operative who was also a successful businessman with a vast network. Their encounter with Bob Ross led to an unexpected opportunity for Annette to star in The Joy of Painting, which would become a cultural phenomenon. In 1983, public broadcasting service stations across the country began airing The Joy of Painting, bringing Bob's soothing voice and artistic talent into millions of homes. The following year, in 1984, the show truly gained momentum when Bob Ross, his wife Jane, and the Kowalskis co-founded Bob Ross Inc., forming a partnership that gave them an equal say in the company. This collaboration proved fruitful, as The Joy of Painting quickly expanded its reach, airing on 277 stations daily and captivating an audience of over 80 million people. This success, however, did not sit well with William Alexander, Bob's former mentor. Alexander believed that Bob was undermining his business by popularizing the same wet-on-wet technique that Alexander had taught him. To Alexander, it felt like a profound betrayal. He saw his students rise to fame as a violation of his own legacy. He was particularly aggrieved that Bob had become the global face of this painting style without giving due credit to him. Despite Alexander's claims of originality, the wet-on-wet technique had historical roots, tracing back to the works of Caravaggio, a renowned oil painter from the Baroque period. However, Alexander's grievances were less about historical accuracy and more about personal affront. He failed to recognize that Bob's appeal went far beyond the technique itself. It was Bob's warm charisma, soothing voice, and the calming effect he had on viewers that made him beloved by millions. His ability to finish a painting within the 30-minute span of his show was impressive, but it was his engaging presence and reassuring demeanor that truly captivated his audience. Alexander, on the other hand, struggled with his heavy German accent, which affected his English pronunciation and made it harder for viewers to connect with him during a time when Anglo-German relations were still healing from historical tensions. This linguistic barrier, coupled with his focus on the technique rather than the viewer experience, prevented him from achieving the same level of popularity as Bob Ross. Audiences were genuinely delighted by Bob's performances on the joy of painting. He had created a welcoming space where individuals could freely express themselves while learning to paint, with Bob as their encouraging companion. His technique was accessible to anyone with an interest in painting, but what truly set him apart was his authentic enthusiasm and charisma. Viewers felt a deep connection to Bob, who dedicated himself wholeheartedly to both his art and his audience. One memorable episode highlighted Bob's empathy and dedication. A colorblind admirer expressed his desire to paint, but lamented that he could only see in gray tones. In response, Bob decided to create an entire painting using only shades of gray. This act of kindness resonated deeply with his audience, drawing even more viewers to the show and earning widespread praise. Despite broadcasting 403 episodes, Bob Ross and his team didn't charge for any of them. Their main goals were expanding the show and promoting their business. However, Bob found alternative avenues to accumulate wealth. The Bob Ross brand was leveraged to market art supplies, instructional materials, books, and workshops taught by certified instructors in his wet-on-wet technique. By 1991, what had started as a modest enterprise with ambitious aspirations had blossomed into a $15 million annual empire. While Bob's motivation was rooted in sharing his passion and knowledge, the Kowalskis prioritized financial gain. Profit maximization was their driving force, reflecting the belief that money alone couldn't bring happiness, a sentiment they shared. Trouble brewed when rumors suggested an affair between Bob and Annette, but the Kowalskis swiftly quashed them. However, years later, Bob's son Steve reignited speculation, hinting that there may have been truth to the rumors all along. Following the death of Bob's wife Jane from cancer in 1992, tensions mounted in their once amicable professional relationship. Their business partnership, governed by a contract formed at the company's inception, stipulated that, in the event of a partner's death, their shares would be evenly distributed among the surviving members. Following Jane's passing and the redistribution of her shares, Bob found himself holding a minority vote in a corporation that thrived on his fame and public image. As John D. Rockefeller famously remarked, "A friendship founded on business is better than a business founded on friendship," a sentiment that explained Bob's situation. At the time of Jane's death, Bob Ross had 2 sons from his 3 marriages. While little is known about his first child, Robert Stephen Ross, affectionately known as Steve Ross, was born during his marriage to Vivian Ridge. Their marriage ended in 1977, with Bob's infidelity cited as the primary reason for their divorce. Shortly after, Bob married Jane, his second wife, with whom he shared a close and affectionate bond until her passing in 1992. Despite their deep connection, they did not have children together. Just 2 months before Bob's own death in 1995, he married Linda Brown, his third wife. While their marriage has sparked speculation and discussion, Bob maintained a commitment to keeping his private life out of the public eye, resulting in limited information being available about his relationship with Linda. Throughout the 11 seasons of the show, Bob Ross welcomed numerous guests, both human and otherwise, but none were as notable as his son, Steve. Bob frequently invited Steve to join him on stage for painting sessions, showcasing his son's impressive talent to the audience. While Steve captivated the crowd with his artwork, Bob would offer occasional commentary, subtly hinting at Steve's potential future in the art world. As Bob contemplated retirement from the show, he ensured that Steve was prepared to take over. But despite Steve's undeniable artistic skill, he lacked the same passion for painting as his father. While Bob had confidence in Steve's abilities to continue the show if necessary, Steve felt that something was missing. Their relationship was often strained, as Steve grappled with the pressure of living up to his father's expectations. A heated argument eventually led to a period of silence between them, during which their communication ceased for quite some time. Bob's health challenge and the events that followed. The reconnection between Bob and Steve came in the wake of devastating news. Bob's lymphoma diagnosis, which came just weeks after the loss of his wife. Steve, burdened with regret for not pursuing the business further after his father's passing, found solace in their renewed communication. Despite the physical and emotional toll of his illness, Bob remained dedicated to his passion for painting. Even as his health declined, and he struggled to find the strength to get out of bed each morning, let alone paint for 30 minutes, Bob persisted in creating episodes that brought joy to others. Keeping his diagnosis a closely guarded secret, he continued to film, his outward demeanor masking the internal battle he faced. Producing 3 or 4 episodes a day, Bob soaked himself in his work, using art as a means of distraction from the harsh realities of his illness. Despite his own impending mortality, Bob's thoughts often turned to his audience, wishing for more episodes to be released even after his passing. In the face of adversity, Bob remained committed to his craft, finding purpose and fulfillment in sharing his love of painting with the world. As Bob faced his illness, he found himself abandoned by those he had once considered friends. It was such a painful realization that revealed their priorities. To them, preserving the financial interests associated with the Bob Ross brand came before the value of Bob Ross, the individual. With Bob's health deteriorating, the Kowalskis grew increasingly fixated on ensuring the continuity of their financial gains from the brand, even in the event of his death. With time running short, Bob found himself backed into a corner, left with only one recourse to address the Kowalskis, who had become his greatest adversaries. After 403 episodes spanning 13 seasons from January 11, 1983, to its conclusion in 1994, Bob made the difficult decision to abruptly end the series. His parting comments, seemingly innocent at the time, carried a weight and finality that no one could have anticipated. In 1995, Bob fulfilled a lifelong dream by appearing on the popular talk show Elmer and Friends. However, this milestone only worsened his already strained relationship with the Kowalskis. As key figures within the company, they asserted control over Bob's appearances, fearing that any revelation of his declining health could negatively impact their business. Bob, aware of their concerns, wore a wig during his appearance to conceal his thinning hair, determined to maintain a positive image for his fans and pursue his passion for television presenting. Despite the Kowalskis' attempts to assert authority over him, Bob remained steadfast in his refusal to prioritize financial gain over his own happiness and fulfillment. He continued to create a cheerful atmosphere for his audience, even as his health declined. Annette Kowalski's visit to the Ross family during Bob's illness further strained their relationship. Annette attempted to secure permission for the Kowalskis to use Bob's likeness in a monument after his passing, but Steve, outraged by their sudden change in attitude towards his father, refused to present the contract to Bob. Despite Annette's failure to obtain Bob's signature, the Kowalskis remained determined to control all of the artist's assets. Their frustration mounted as Bob resisted their attempts to manipulate him, highlighting their disregard for his well-being and personal wishes. To them, Bob's existence appeared to hold no significance beyond the acquisition of his signature on paper. Even in death, Bob Ross's likeness and memory remained more valuable to the Kowalskis than the man himself. Their excessive actions extended even into Bob's final days, with relentless phone calls to his home disturbing his peaceful rest. Despite Bob's attempts to preserve his own values and avoid entanglement with the Kowalskis, Legal disputes loomed on the horizon. In the days leading up to his passing, Bob's normally cheerful demeanor was shattered by the Kowalskis' persistent intrusions. His son Steve recounted how each phone call would leave his father agitated, with audible screams of refusal echoing from his chamber. "You're not getting my name." Bob struggled against the relentless pressure, but the looming bell of death and the ensuing legal battles would test him beyond measure. On July 4, 1995, Bob Ross tragically passed away at the age of 52, succumbing to complications related to lymphoma worsened by a history of cigarette smoking. He was laid to rest in Gotha, Florida's Woodlawn Memorial Park, in a ceremony attended only by his immediate family and close friends. The secrecy surrounding Bob's passing meant that word of his death took time to reach the public, resulting in a modest turnout for his funeral, with no presence from the Kowalski family. For the Kowalskis, the news of Bob's death brought more concern for their business than sorrow for the loss of a friend. To them, Bob had been nothing more than a business opportunity, and his passing was viewed through the lens of its potential impact on their financial interests. Legal battles. The aftermath of Bob Ross's passing saw a legal battle unfold between his heirs and the Kowalskis, who sought control over Bob Ross Inc. and the rights to Bob's name and likeness. Despite Bob excluding the Kowalskis from his will, they pursued ownership through legal means. Ultimately, unable to sustain a protracted legal fight, Bob's estate executor, Jimmy Cox, settled with the Kowalskis. The settlement included mutual releases, stating that all parties released each other from any claims arising prior to the agreement. However, it wasn't until more than 2 decades later that Steve Ross discovered a clause in his father's trust, granting him all rights to Bob's name, likeness, and publicity. Armed with this revelation, Steve sued Bob Ross Inc., alleging unauthorized use of his father's likeness in business deals and products, and demanded compensation. Unfortunately for Steve, the court ruled against him in 2019. The judge determined that the trust could not have transferred the rights to Steve because they were not owned by the trust in the first place. The ruling upheld the business agreement, stating that Bob Ross had given Bob Ross Inc. his right to publicity during his lifetime, meaning it could not transfer to his son upon his death. Despite the trust's provision, Steve received nothing from the business empire built on his father's persona and artistic techniques. The ruling revealed the complexities of intellectual property law and the challenges faced by heirs seeking to assert control over a legacy crafted by their loved one. The outcome left many fans disheartened, especially those who believed that Bob's legacy should be in the hands of his family. Steve, who had appeared in several episodes of The Joy of Painting and shared his father's gentle demeanor and talent, became a symbol of the struggle to honor Bob's memory amid corporate interests. He later began teaching his own painting classes, hoping to carry forward his father's spirit outside the shadow of the legal battle. Meanwhile, Bob Ross's image continued to grow in popularity, appearing on merchandise, memes, and social media platforms, often without his family's input. For many, the story behind the canvas became as compelling as the art itself. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel. And for a more interesting video, make sure to check out the recommended video on your screen right now. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.